of the directors of the Canadian Coalition Against the Death Penalty, and we've launched this event this evening in conjunction with the Association in Defense of the Wrongly Convicted, AWIC. Now, for those of you not familiar with our organization, CCADP, Canadian Coalition Against the Death Penalty, was established back in 1998, essentially after coming across information that was posted on the internet on the wrongful conviction of Jimmy Dennis, a factually innocent Pennsylvania death row prisoner. You may see some of the literature and pamphlets that we're putting out tonight. Essentially, finding out about Mr. Dennis's case is what led to the inception of the CCADP. Our idea is quite simple: to allow death row prisoners a forum to post information for the public about their cases. And by letting the public have access to information about these prisoners' cases, we would be encouraging others to also get involved. Now, as time went by, after the first couple of pages we put up, other death row prisoners began to hear about our offer of free web pages, and the letters started flooding in. And the rest, as they say, is history. We currently have nearly 1,000 death row prisoners represented on our web pages, mostly from the United States, but also some from Trinidad and Tobago, more recently from Zambia. And the CCADP web pages, they have information on our cases, legal documentation, artwork, writings, appeals for assistance, and of course pen pal requests. And a little later on, our speaker, Juan Melendez, will let you know what kind of an impact having access to the internet through organizations like the CCADP and others out there can have on someone who is locked away in a cage, sentenced to death, forgotten by society, with little chance of being heard. Until now, of course, with little help from the outside organizations like ours. Now, at one time, tonight's speaker, Juan Melendez, was one of those condemned men writing to us from a cell in the state of Florida where they planned to kill him. And there are thousands of people out there still on death rows right across the United States. And yes, some are actually innocent people, like Juan Melendez. Now, as one of the United States' closest trading partners, it's our responsibility to be speaking up against this ongoing grievous human rights abuse. And we, the CCADP, hope that you will be joining us in this fight, as you've seen the CCADP information membership forms floating around here this evening. Now, to begin, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our co-sponsors of the evening, and that's the Association in Defense of the Wrongly Convicted, AWIC, who are going to tell you a little bit about their great work on the issue of the death penalty in the United States, as well, of course, about wrongful convictions that have taken place here in Canada. So tonight, from AWIC, I'd like to introduce Wen Warner.
Actually, I'm not going to talk about AWIC. I'm going to leave that to our co-president. But before I go there, I want to acknowledge our president recently stepped down, and I'd like Peter Meyer to stand up. For 10 years, he was chairperson and president of AWIC, and I think he deserves a big round of applause for his dedication overall. I'm very greatly honored to introduce one of our co-presidents, and who's doing an amazing job stepping into Peter's shoes. Would you please welcome now one of the co-presidents. The other president, by the way, is Paul Copeland, but here is Mel Green.
Thank you very much, Wynn. Good evening, everyone. I'm very, very pleased to welcome Juan Roberto Melendez here this evening on behalf of AWIC. AWIC, for those of you who are not familiar with our operation, is an organization that's existed since 1993, May of 1993, as Wynn reminds me, and is dedicated to the prevention of wrongful convictions and the correction of wrongful convictions. We began in the wake of the terrible miscarriage of justice that befell Paul Moran. We worked with a small group of volunteers, lawyers and non-lawyers alike, to correct that terrible injustice. And then, when the Court of Appeal indeed reversed that conviction, and the apologies were finally made, Paul Moran emerged, as he always had been, of course, an innocent man. We realized, and this came as a surprise to all of us as Canadians, we realized that Guy Paul Morin was not an aberration, that he was in fact an all-too-common phenomenon. There are far too many people in this country who fall prey to errors in our justice system and end up being convicted of offenses they have never committed. And if that offense was murder, and if they were in 38 states in the United States, they could be looking at the death penalty. We worked, since Guy Paul Morin's case, on correcting the wrongful convictions of Clayton Johnson in Nova Scotia, of Thomas Sofno in Winnipeg, of Greg Parsons in Newfoundland, of Robert Baltovich, Romeo Filion, and Gordon Folland, all here in Ontario, and all of whom I'm very pleased to point out are with us here tonight. Robert, you're here somewhere, I know. There you are. Let's see you again. And for almost anyone who's opened a newspaper or turned on the radio or the television this week, you must be aware as well that as of about 2 or 3 days ago, another terrible wrongful conviction was finally recognized in Canada, and that's the case of James Driscoll out of Winnipeg. And he too has been vindicated within the last 48 or 72 hours. These are all cases that, as we say in Haiti, we adopted, and we did the best we could, with some success, sometimes in the face of almost what appears insurmountable odds, to do justice. We have made justice, but there are many more cases in the pipe. I think there's something changing in this country. There's still resistance from the crowns, from the police officers who invested themselves, their energies, and their identities in their convictions. They think they own it. They think they own it. And justice be damned sometimes. But once we broke the Jim Driscoll case, once James Lockyer, who I don't think is here tonight, but may step in at any moment, got him sprung on bail pending our application to the minister under what's called Section 696 of the Criminal Code for a final post-conviction review. Things moved. And they turned around that application in Ottawa in almost record time. And they ordered a new trial. And within hours, the Minister of Justice in Manitoba stood up and said there's not going to be any new trial. We're not going to leave him to dangle in the wind the way Saskatchewan left David Milgaard to dangle in the wind for an insufferable period of time. They said, we're going to enter a state of prosecution. And they said, not only are we going to enter a state of prosecution, they said, we're going to try to find out what went wrong so that we don't have any more miscarriages of justice of this sort again. And they appointed a commission to inquire immediately, all on the same day. These have all been tough battles. Some don't make it. Juan Melendez's battle was an extremely tough one. He's going to tell us all about that. He relied on his endurance, he relied on his faith, he relied on the dedicated commitment of his counsel and his supporters. Without all of that, he would not be here today. In fact, without all that, he would not be anywhere on this planet today. And we would all be poorer as a result. At AIDWIC, we have always opposed the death penalty. We have reached into countries far from Canada to intervene where the death penalty loomed in the case of Canadian citizens. We have not always been successful. We went to Texas for the Folder case. We lost. We went to Vietnam, the case of a woman who was completely innocent of the crime she'd been sentenced to death for her and her mother. In fact, we couldn't even get there. They wouldn't give us a visa to enter the country. I think our pressure helped save the mother, but her daughter was executed. We lost that one too. We're opposed to the death penalty because simply put, it's wrong. It's just simply wrong. But we're also opposed to it because, and here it's becoming increasingly clear to anyone who's got their eyes open, that the death penalty is sometimes inevitably visited on the wrong people. Innocent people. People that the state murders for crimes they never committed. Juan Melendez is one of those innocent people. He spent 18 years and counting in prison in Florida for an offense that he never committed. He's now one of the clarion voices in that struggle against the death penalty, the struggle to end the death penalty, everywhere and for all time. AIDWIC is part of that struggle, and for us it's a great honor